Imagine a world bathed in firelight and shadow, where the heavens were not merely a canvas, but a divine scroll, etched with the will of unseen gods. For ancient peoples, the sun, moon, and stars dictated fates, whispered prophecies, and warned of impending doom or glory. A sudden shift in their celestial dance could bring kingdoms to their knees or ignite the very spark of human understanding. For decades, the arid lands of Anatolia bled, scarred by the relentless conflict between two burgeoning powers, the formidable Lydian Empire and the ascendant Medes. Generations knew nothing but the brutal rhythm of war, the clash of bronze, the cries of the fallen. It was a struggle for supremacy, a grinding, merciless conflict that seemed destined to consume all in its path. Then, on a fateful day, as two mighty armies once again locked shields and drew swords on the battlefield, poised for another decisive confrontation, something extraordinary, utterly terrifying, began to unfold. The sky, a constant witness to human folly and ambition, started to change. A growing shadow crept across the sun's face, an ominous shroud descending with unnerving speed. Panic seized both Lydian and Median warriors alike. The world, vibrant moments before, plunged into an unnatural twilight, the air growing cold, the very light of life extinguished. Weapons clattered, war cries died in throats, and the brutal dance of death was brought to an absolute, unholy halt. For in that moment of profound, cosmic darkness, the Lydian-Median war ceased. But this was more than a divine omen. This was potentially the crucible where superstition began its long, slow retreat before the dawn of reason. Legend claims a lone philosopher, Thales of Miletus, gazing at the stars from afar, had predicted this impossible event. Whether precise foresight or serendipitous timing, that breathtaking celestial drama sparked a revelation. It offered a glimpse into a cosmos not merely controlled by capricious deities, but governed by predictable laws. Join us as we journey back to that incredible epic, to the bloody battlefields, the terror of the sky, and the profound intellectual awakening that followed. This is the story of how an eclipse halted a war and ignited humanity's relentless quest to understand the very fabric of the universe, laying the cornerstone for modern astronomy. Imagine a world unburdened by scientific certainty, where the very heavens were a canvas for divine will and fearsome omens. For millennia, humanity looked up, charting the predictable dance of sun and moon, finding comfort in their ceaseless rhythm. But then, on rare, terrifying occasions, that rhythm shattered. Suddenly, without warning, a malevolent shadow would creep across the sun, its life-giving light fading, colors draining from the world, and a chilling twilight descending in the middle of the day. To ancient eyes, this was not astronomy. It was a cataclysm, a ravenous beast devouring the sky, a god's wrath unleashed, or the very fabric of existence unraveling. Panic would seize communities, prayers would erupt, sacrifices be offered, as a primal fear gripped every soul, convinced that the end of days had arrived. This profound, cosmic mystery once unfolded over a land already steeped in human conflict and ambition, ancient Anatolia. By the 6th century BCE, this bridge between East and West was dominated by two titanic powers. To the west lay the opulent Lydian kingdom, famous for its wealth, its invention of coinage, and its legendary capital, Sardis. Ruled by King Aliats, a shrewd and formidable warrior, Lydia controlled vast territories, stretching its influence westward to the Aegean Sea. Eastward, across rugged plains and towering mountains, lay the Median Empire, an equally formidable force that had recently helped topple Assyria. Their capital, Ecbatana, was a marvel, and their king, Cyaxares, commanded a fearsome army, ever eager to expand his dominion. Two giants, their borders inching closer, their ambitions on a collision course. For decades, the Lydian and Median empires clashed in a brutal, exhausting struggle for supremacy over Anatolia. This wasn't a quick skirmish. It was a protracted, agonizing conflict that dragged on for what felt like an eternity, spanning generations. Fathers fought, sons fought, and still the war raged. Each battle brought immense human cost, rivers of blood spilled, towns razed, and countless lives shattered by the relentless attrition. Both King Aliats and King Cyaxares, despite their military might, found themselves caught in a cycle of vengeance and territorial ambition that neither could break. Their treasuries were depleted, their populations weary, yet pride and the seemingly endless desire for dominance fueled the fires of war, promising no end in sight. Central to this long, agonizing conflict was a majestic natural feature, the Halys River. Known today as the Kızılırmak, its winding course through the heart of Anatolia became more than just a waterway. It was a fluid, shifting border, a strategic choke point, and a bloody battleground. For both Lydians and Medes, controlling its banks meant asserting dominance, guarding vital trade routes, and projecting power deep into enemy territory. Countless skirmishes and major engagements have been fought along its shores, staining its waters crimson. The Halys represented the very essence of their struggle, a powerful, unyielding barrier that separated their worlds, yet constantly drew them into violent confrontation, a silent witness to decades of human folly. By 585 BCE, after almost 3 decades of relentless fighting, both empires were exhausted. Yet a final climactic showdown seemed inevitable. Negotiations had failed, treaties broken. There was a palpable sense, a collective weariness, that this next engagement would, finally, bring about a decisive end. King Aliats, leading his Lydian legions, and King Cyaxares, marshaling his Median warriors, amassed their forces for one last, desperate push. On a sun-drenched plain near the Halys, across the river from each other, they prepared for what they believed would be the decisive battle, a day that would either secure ultimate victory or lead to catastrophic defeat. Hope, fear, and grim determination hung heavy in the pre-battle air as thousands of lives poised on the brink. The morning passed with the meticulous preparations of ancient warfare, formations drawn, last rites whispered, and war cries rehearsed. Then, with a deafening roar that shook the very earth, the two titans collided. Lydian cavalry thundered forward, a wave of bronze and iron, crashing into the disciplined ranks of Median spearmen. The air became a cacophony of clashing steel, splintering shields, and the guttural shouts of men locked in mortal combat. Arrows rained down, javelins flew, and the ground quickly became a churning mass of struggling bodies. This was the brutal, visceral reality of ancient battle, a desperate fight for survival where every inch of ground was bought with blood. The sun beat down, illuminating the chaos, yet unnoticed by warriors consumed by the primal frenzy of war. Yet, amidst the deafening din of battle, a subtle shift began. Imperceptibly at first, then with increasing clarity, the harsh sunlight seemed to soften. Colors on the battlefield, once vivid, grew muted as if a great, unseen filter had been drawn across the sky. Shadows, usually sharp and distinct, elongated and blurred in an unnatural way. A peculiar, unsettling chill descended, raising goosebumps on the skin of warriors too focused on survival to immediately comprehend the change. Swords still swung, shields still parried, but a strange unease flickered in the periphery of their awareness. Some glanced skyward, momentarily distracted by the peculiar dimming, their brows furrowed in confusion. This was not the familiar approach of evening. This was something altogether different, something profoundly wrong. Then, with terrifying speed, the inexplicable became absolute. The last sliver of the sun vanished, swallowed by an unseen force. The battlefield, moments ago, a maelstrom of light and steel, plunged into sudden, profound darkness. A gasp, then an eerie silence, fell over the warring armies. Swords dropped, shields clattered. Above, where the sun had been, now hung a black disk, framed by an ethereal, pearly white halo, the sun's glorious corona, visible only during totality. Stars, usually hidden by day, shimmered into view. This was no mere cloud. This was the celestial order shattered, the day devoured by night. The primal fear that had haunted humanity for millennia erupted on the battlefield, halting the clash of empires in an instant. War ceased, replaced by collective terror. For ancient peoples, the sky was a canvas upon which the gods painted their will. Without scientific understanding, a solar eclipse was not merely a celestial phenomenon. It was a terrifying, inexplicable event imbued with profound, often malevolent meaning. The sudden descent of night in the middle of the day, the chilling silence, the eerie twilight glow, these were unmistakable signs. Was it divine wrath? An omen of impending doom? A warning from deities offended by human hubris and endless war? The Lydians and Medes, like all cultures of their time, believed deeply in such cosmic pronouncements. This wasn't just darkness. It was a direct message from the heavens, terrifying in its clarity, yet utterly mystifying in its intent. Panic would have seized hearts, not just of warriors, but of entire civilizations, watching the sun, giver of life, being swallowed whole. And so, as the moon began its inexorable march across the sun on that fateful May afternoon in 585 BCE, the battlefield, a brutal tableau of clashing bronze and desperate cries, fell utterly silent. The advancing darkness, not of night, but of an unnatural, encroaching gloom, brought the Lydian-Median war to an abrupt, staggering halt. Swords paused mid-swing, arrows hung unloosed, chariots stilled. Warriors, moments before locked in a death embrace, now stood frozen, their faces turning from rage to a shared, primal terror. The blood-soaked ground, the metallic clang of battle, all receded into an eerie hush as the very source of light and warmth was consumed. It was a terror that transcended tribal loyalties, binding sworn enemies in a single, overwhelming moment of shared dread beneath a sky that seemed to be collapsing upon them. In that profound, unnatural darkness, the very act of warfare became meaningless. The sun, life-giver, had vanished, leaving behind only a chilling, alien twilight. The Lydians and Medes, who had for decades sought to annihilate one another, now found themselves united not by alliance, but by an overwhelming sense of shared vulnerability. The shouts of war were replaced by gasps of astonishment, then by a profound, almost spiritual awe. As the sun's corona flared like a ghostly halo around the black disk of the moon, the primal urge for survival, for understanding, eclipsed the desire for conflict. For a fleeting, extraordinary moment, the lines of enemy and ally blurred, replaced by the collective identity of humanity witnessing a spectacle both terrifying and sublime. It was a ceasefire mandated not by generals, but by the cosmos itself. The eclipse passed, and light returned, but the shadow it cast upon the minds of men remained. The sudden return of the sun did not immediately rekindle the fires of war. Instead, it ignited a profound introspection. What kind of conflict invited such a terrifying cosmic rebuke? Had the gods themselves intervened, condemning their ceaseless bloodshed? For the ordinary soldier, it was an undeniable sign. For the kings, Alliats of Lydia and Cyaxares of Media, it was a potent, unignorable omen. The psychological impact was immense, shaking their resolve, forcing them to question the righteousness and sanity of continuing a war that seemed so clearly disfavored by the heavens. The battlefield was no longer just a place of death. It was a site of divine revelation, demanding a different path forward. Into this climate of shaken resolve and cosmic dread stepped two shrewd and opportunistic figures, Cynesis, the powerful king of Cilicia, and Labanidas, likely a representative of the mighty Neo-Babylonian Empire, often identified with King Nabonidus. These neutral powers, long weary of the destabilizing Lydian-Median conflict, recognized the celestial intervention as an unparalleled opportunity. The eclipse had created a powerful, shared psychological space for peace, a moment of universal vulnerability that transcended ancient grudges. Dionysus and Labanitus seized this opening with diplomatic precision, moving swiftly to broker a lasting settlement. They understood that fear, when shared, could be a powerful catalyst for unity, and that the shock of the eclipse had finally created the conditions for an end to decades of bloodshed. The negotiations, fueled by the lingering awe and fear of the eclipse, bore fruit. Dionysus and Labanitus skillfully guided the weary belligerents towards a monumental peace treaty cemented by a time-honored tradition, a dynastic marriage. Alyattes, the Lydian king, would offer his daughter Arienes in marriage to Astyages, the son of Cyaxares, the Median king. This wasn't merely a political alliance. It was a profound merging of bloodlines, a powerful statement of commitment designed to forge an unbreakable bond between two formerly warring empires. The ceremony, though perhaps modest on the battlefield, represented a monumental shift, transforming adversaries into kin. The union of these two royal houses, witnessed under the very sky that had delivered its chilling ultimatum, was intended to guarantee peace for generations. And so, an era of unprecedented peace dawned across Anatolia. The wedding pact, forged in the shadow of a celestial event, ushered in decades of stability for the Lydian and Median empires. Borders that had once been battlefields became zones of trade and cultural exchange. The political landscape of the ancient Near East was reshaped, no longer dominated by ceaseless conflict, but by a fragile yet enduring alliance. This peace allowed both empires to flourish, consolidating their power and fostering economic growth. The eclipse of 585 BCE had not merely halted a battle. It had fundamentally altered the course of history, demonstrating nature's profound power to reshape human destiny, transforming enmity into an unexpected, yet deeply felt accord. A new chapter had begun, written not in blood, but in the ethereal glow of a cosmic phenomenon. But the legacy of the eclipse extended far beyond politics and borders. For amidst the prevailing fear and superstition, a different kind of mind was at work, seeking not divine pronouncements, but natural explanations. In the vibrant Greek city-state of Miletus, not far from the Lydian frontier, lived Thales, a towering figure often hailed as the Western world's first philosopher and scientist. Thales, unlike his contemporaries, rejected supernatural explanations for natural phenomena. He sought underlying principles, proposing that water was the fundamental element of all things. Crucially, ancient accounts suggest Thales had predicted this very eclipse, possibly by recognizing a cyclical pattern. If true, it was a breathtaking leap, a moment when humanity began to transition from seeing the cosmos as the capricious playground of gods to a grand, predictable mechanism awaiting rational understanding. Our journey into this extraordinary event begins with the father of history himself, Herodotus. Writing a century after the fact, he immortalized a truly astounding claim that Thales of Miletus, the enigmatic Ionian philosopher, predicted the very solar eclipse that brought the Lydian-Median War to a standstill. Imagine the scene: two mighty armies, locked in a brutal battle on May 28, 585 BCE, their shields clashing, spears flying. Suddenly, an unnatural twilight descends, the sun consumed by an unseen horror. Panic erupts. Herodotus recounts that the Lydians and Medes, interpreting this cosmic spectacle as a divine sign, immediately ceased hostilities and sought peace. This singular moment, where the heavens intervened, solidified Thales' legend, transforming him from a mere thinker into a seer, a man who could glimpse the future. But how could Thales, dwelling in an age devoid of telescopes or complex astronomical models, achieve such a feat? The answer lies not in mystical insight, but in meticulous observation and the accumulated wisdom of another great civilization, Babylon. For centuries, Babylonian priest astronomers had been charting the heavens with astonishing precision, meticulously recording celestial events on clay tablets. They noticed recurring patterns, particularly the Saros cycle, a period of 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours after which the Sun, Earth, and Moon returned to approximately the same relative positions, leading to very similar eclipses. Thales, a known traveler and scholar, almost certainly accessed these vast archives, translating generations of raw data into a predictive framework. He was not divining, but deciphering the rhythmic heartbeat of the cosmos. Yet, even with the advanced Saros cycle, predicting a total solar eclipse for a specific geographical location in Thales' era was fraught with immense difficulty. The Saros cycle merely indicates that an eclipse will occur and roughly where on Earth's surface its path might fall. However, determining the precise width of the path of totality, often just a few dozen miles wide, and its exact trajectory across continents was beyond ancient capabilities. Without accurate longitudes, precise time-keeping devices, or a full understanding of the Moon's complex orbital variations, pinpointing the exact battleground in Asia Minor seemed an impossible stroke of luck. It was like knowing a storm was coming to a vast region, but not knowing which small town would bear its full, devastating force. This inherent imprecision fuels one of history's most enduring debates. Was Thales' prediction a triumph of early scientific foresight, or an astonishingly lucky, educated guess? Many scholars argue that while Thales could have predicted an eclipse would be visible in the general region around that time, pinpointing the totality over the specific battlefield was statistically improbable. Some even suggest the prediction itself might be a post hoc attribution, a legend retroactively attached to Thales to magnify his intellectual prowess, much like many ancient heroes gained supernatural feats. Whether a precise calculation, a brilliant estimation, or a convenient embellishment, the legend undeniably elevated Thales, distinguishing him as the first human mind to attempt to demystify the heavens, rather than simply observe them. Regardless of its precise accuracy, the very act of attempting to predict such an event marked a profound shift. Before Thales and the Ionian philosophers, celestial phenomena were almost universally interpreted through the lens of divine intervention and omens. A solar eclipse was not a predictable alignment of celestial bodies, but a fearsome sign from capricious gods, a dragon devouring the sun, a divine king showing displeasure, or an apocalyptic harbinger. Priests and shamans held immense power, their interpretations dictating the fate of empires and individuals. The sky was a vast, unknowable tapestry woven by deities, each flicker and shadow carrying a mystical message. Humanity was merely a pawn in this cosmic drama, utterly dependent on divine whims. Thales of Miletus, in stark contrast, sought to peel back this veil of divine mystery. He was among the first to ask, what if these phenomena, including the terrifying eclipse, weren't the unpredictable tantrums of gods, but rather the unfolding of consistent, discernible natural laws? He sought physis, the underlying nature or principle that governed the cosmos. This revolutionary mindset shifted humanity's gaze from appeasing fickle deities to understanding the fundamental mechanics of existence. It was the birth of rational inquiry, the very bedrock of what we now call science. Thales' audacious leap, from supernatural explanation to observable cause, irrevocably changed the course of human thought, laying the groundwork for a systematic, empirical approach to the world. Thales' revolutionary thinking was not born in a vacuum. It was nurtured by burgeoning insights into the geometry of the cosmos. The Babylonians, with their advanced mathematics, had already developed methods for calculating planetary positions and predicting lunar cycles using sophisticated arithmetical schemes. The early Greeks, building on this foundation, began to apply geometric principles to understand the celestial sphere. Thales himself was a renowned geometer, credited with theorems that underpin modern mathematics. He and his contemporaries started to perceive the orderly dance of celestial bodies not as chaos, but as a grand, predictable mechanism. These early geometric insights were the first crude blueprints, allowing humanity to conceptualize the universe as a measurable, comprehensible system, rather than an arbitrary display of divine power. Today, armed with millennia of scientific progress, we understand the celestial ballet that creates a total solar eclipse with breathtaking clarity. It is the precise, breathtaking alignment of three cosmic bodies: the Sun, the Moon, and the Earth. When the Moon passes directly between the Sun and Earth, its shadow falls upon our planet. This shadow has two parts: the darker, inner umbra, where the Sun is completely blocked, creating totality, and the lighter, outer penumbra, where a partial eclipse is observed. It's a cosmic coincidence that the Moon, being so much smaller than the Sun, is also much closer, appearing almost exactly the same size in our sky. This perfect celestial synchronicity, once a terrifying omen, is now a testament to the elegant, predictable laws that Thales first dared to seek. From the Lydian plains to the Fertile Crescent, the very unpredictability of eclipses fueled fear. But centuries before Thales, another ancient civilization began to see a pattern in the chaos. The Babylonians, meticulous observers of the heavens from their towering ziggurats, dedicated themselves to recording every celestial event. Through generations of patient, painstaking documentation, they slowly, almost imperceptibly, uncovered the Saros cycle. This remarkable 18-year, 11-day, 8-hour period revealed that eclipses repeat in a predictable sequence. Though they didn't understand the underlying mechanics of orbital mechanics, their ability to anticipate these awesome events, even if imperfectly, was a monumental leap. It was the first step towards demystifying the cosmos, transforming celestial terror into a whisper of predictable order. The ability to predict an eclipse, even just its approximate return, was more than a technical achievement. It represented a profound paradigm shift in human thought. No longer were these celestial disappearances solely the wrath of angry gods or capricious omens. They became phenomena governed by an underlying, discoverable order. This transition, from fearful superstition to intellectual mastery, was the very genesis of scientific inquiry. It fostered the courage to ask why, instead of just what does it mean for me? While Thales's prediction of the Lydian Median eclipse remains a point of historical debate, the very idea that such a prediction was possible speaks volumes. It ignited a spark, suggesting that the universe was not chaotic, but rational, and that its secrets could be unlocked through observation and reason. This burgeoning scientific curiosity, sparked by eclipses, was not confined to one corner of the ancient world. Across continents and cultures, solar eclipses captivated, terrified, and spurred observation. In ancient Rome, eclipses were often seen as terrible omens, portending disaster or the fall of emperors, recorded with dread in historical annals. Meanwhile, in imperial China, court astronomers meticulously documented these sun-eating dragons, believing it their sacred duty to predict and avert misfortune, compiling vast astronomical records over millennia. Far across the ocean, the sophisticated Maya of Mesoamerica, with their intricate calendars and advanced mathematics, developed precise methods for tracking celestial events, including eclipses, evidenced by structures like El Caracol in Chichen Itza. These diverse interpretations, from fear to prophecy to precise calculation, underscore the universal power of eclipses to shape human understanding of the cosmos. The foundations laid by early astronomical observations, often spurred by celestial phenomena like eclipses, eventually led to breathtaking scientific achievements. Around 240 BCE, in the intellectual hub of Alexandria, a brilliant Greek scholar named Eratosthenes used ingenious geometric reasoning to calculate something truly astounding: the circumference of the Earth. Noticing that on the summer solstice, the sun shone directly down a well in Syene, modern Aswan, while at the same time it cast a measurable shadow in Alexandria, a known distance north. By measuring the angle of that shadow and understanding basic geometry, he deduced the Earth's curvature and calculated its circumference with remarkable accuracy, within 15% of modern values. This was a testament to the power of observation, reason, and the belief that the universe operated on discoverable principles. Building on this legacy of meticulous observation, the Hellenistic era continued to push the boundaries of astronomical knowledge. Hipparchus of Nicaea, often considered the greatest astronomer of antiquity, left an indelible mark. Operating in the 2nd century BCE, he meticulously compiled the first comprehensive star catalog, painstakingly recording the positions and brightness of nearly 850 stars. This monumental effort, using sophisticated instruments like the armillary sphere, laid the groundwork for all future stellar cartography. More remarkably, by comparing his observations with earlier Babylonian records, Hipparchus discovered the precession of the equinoxes, a slow, majestic wobble of the Earth's axis that subtly shifts the apparent position of the stars over centuries. This staggering insight into our planet's long-term motion was an unparalleled feat of scientific deduction. From ancient omens to fundamental predictions, eclipses have continually shaped our understanding of the universe. Even today, centuries after Thales, solar eclipses remain crucial to cutting-edge scientific research. They offer fleeting, invaluable opportunities that no technology can fully replicate. In 1919, Arthur Eddington famously used a total solar eclipse to observe starlight bending around the sun, providing the first observational evidence for Albert Einstein's revolutionary theory of general relativity. More routinely, eclipses provide the only natural window into the sun's ethereal outer atmosphere, the corona, the source of solar wind and massive flares. Modern scientists use these precious minutes of totality to study the corona structure, temperature, and magnetic fields, unraveling the mysteries of our star and its profound influence on Earth. Beyond the laboratories and observatories, eclipses continue to ignite an almost primal fascination in people around the globe. Meet the eclipse chasers, a dedicated tribe of enthusiasts who travel the world, sometimes at great personal expense, just for a few precious minutes of totality. From remote desert plains to the deck of a cruise ship, they converge, equipped with specialized cameras and an unquenchable thirst for wonder. As the moon's shadow races towards them, the light takes on an eerie hue, the temperature drops, and the world holds its breath. Then, the diamond ring, the sudden, profound darkness, and the shimmering, pearly corona. It's a sensory overload, a shared, transcendent moment that reminds us of our place in the cosmos, a timeless echo of the awe felt by our ancient ancestors. The quest for understanding, sparked by ancient eclipses, continues to propel us into new frontiers. Today, space-based observatories like NASA's SOHO, Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, and the Parker Solar Probe offer unprecedented, continuous views of our sun, effectively creating artificial eclipses with onboard coronagraphs. These instruments block the sun's disk, allowing scientists to study the corona year-round, unhindered by Earth's atmosphere or weather. Furthermore, the concept of an eclipse has expanded dramatically beyond our solar system. The transit of exoplanets across their parent stars, causing a tiny, distant eclipse of starlight, provides vital clues about worlds light years away. From ancient battlefields to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the shadow of an eclipse remains a powerful beacon guiding humanity's unending journey of discovery. Even in our modern age, armed with meticulous calculations and advanced optics, the spectacle of a total solar eclipse remains an event of profound, almost primal power. Imagine the sun, that eternal beacon, slowly being consumed by an unseen predator until only a diamond ring of light gleams in the sudden twilight. The air cools, the birds fall silent, and the universe seems to hold its breath. It is a moment of breathtaking beauty and chilling introspection, a raw demonstration of cosmic mechanics that humbles even the most scientific mind. for ancient civilizations, lacking our understanding. Such an event was nothing short of divine intervention, a terrifying and awe-inspiring omen from the heavens. This universal human response, this deep-seated wonder, bridges millennia, connecting us to those who stood beneath that shadowed sky over 2,500 years ago. And so it was on May 28th, 585 BCE, that this timeless spectacle descended upon a battlefield soaked in blood and weary from decades of conflict. The Lydian and Median War, a brutal struggle between two powerful ancient empires, was poised for another devastating clash. Then, without warning, the world went dark. Chaos on the battlefield turned to stunned silence, then to terror. Swords clattered, shields fell, as hardened warriors, both Lydian and Median, looked skyward, their faces contorted in fear and awe. This was no mere omen. This was a sign so absolute, so terrifyingly immediate, that it transcended all earthly grievances. It was here, in this moment of cosmic interruption, that the flickering flame of observation, perhaps guided by the foresight of Thales of Miletus, began to reshape human destiny. The war, they declare, must end. Peace, born from the deepest shadows, descended upon the land. The cessation of hostilities was just the immediate, tangible outcome of that fateful day in 585 BCE. The truly profound legacy of Thales and that eclipsed sun lay not in the peace treaty itself, but in what it represented, a pivotal shift in human thought. For perhaps the first time, a celestial event was not merely accepted as an act of capricious gods, but was seen through the lens of potential predictability. If the heavens could be understood, if their movements followed discernible patterns, then humanity's place in the cosmos could be rationally explored. This nascent curiosity, this bold step from superstition to systematic inquiry, laid the foundation for all scientific progress to follow. The desire to observe, to question, and to ultimately comprehend the universe, sparked by the terrifying beauty of a sky gone dark, remains the most powerful engine of discovery we possess. From the dust-choked plains where Lydian and Median warriors clashed, to the awe-inspiring, terrifying moment when the sky itself seemed to unravel, our journey has traversed millennia. We have revisited a world where the heavens were the ultimate arbiter and witnessed a single celestial event not only bring a devastating war to an abrupt, miraculous end, but also fundamentally alter humanity's perception of its place within the cosmos. Whether Thales of Miletus truly predicted that fateful solar eclipse remains a subject of historical debate, a blend of legend and burgeoning scientific aspiration. Yet the enduring power of that narrative lies not just in the prediction itself, but in the profound shift it represents. It was a pivot point, a moment where the terrifying mystery of the heavens began to yield to the patient, systematic observation of the human mind. The eclipse became a catalyst, transforming a world governed by fear and divine caprice into one where patterns could be discerned and laws could be sought. The Lydian and Median War concluded not with a treaty born of exhaustion, but with a peace forged in shared wonder and terror under a darkened sun. That solitary moment, so long ago, set in motion a relentless pursuit of knowledge that continues to this day, fueling every telescope, every probe, every theoretical leap into the unknown. It reminds us that even in chaos, understanding can emerge, that even the most primal fears can pave the way for intellectual triumph. The sky may have gone dark, but in that profound shadow, the light of human inquiry truly began to shine, a beacon that continues to guide our endless quest for discovery.